Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to another live stream of Hearthstone. Today is Monday, August 6th, starting late, although there's a couple of things I want to throw out here and see if I can get any feedback on. I said at the end of the last stream I was going to cover all of the new cards at the Boomsday expansion, which I did, but I did it after I basically fell asleep, so it was somewhere around 2 or 3 in the morning. And that 2 or 3 in the morning series of 3 hours of streaming, while very painful to stream and talk for 6 hours in such a short amount of time, to the point where it was hurting my teeth to talk, that got way more views. It should have gotten way more views anyways, because it's the Boomsday Project expansion, certainly, but I'm kind of wondering, maybe I should just stream it like 2 or 3 in the morning. Maybe the 4 o'clock to somewhere around 4 o'clock in the evening streaming time is wrong. I don't know how it's really wrong. When you get into a bigger scale, when you get away from my 260 subscribers, it stops being realistic to say I'm gonna have the vast majority of English-speaking people from probably from the United States or North America watching videos as they come out at 2 in the morning. That's just not realistic. But the metrics are certainly sending me in a wrong direction, I think, in that case. I got a watch and learn. Another thing I jokingly want to suggest is maybe I should rebrand these streams as the Sleepy Boy stream or something like that, because you know, the reason why I was streaming the expansions of the new Hearthstone expansion at 2 in the morning is insomnia, and insomnia seems to just be getting worse and worse. And somebody complained on one of the videos that I sounded sleepy, and I can't agree. At least for my scale, I was awake during that part. I was definitely sleepier at other times. And for today, right now, I don't particularly call myself sleepy either. Let's see, we need to play a bunch of Warlock and Hunter cards, so let's hop into a game. Clearly, if I've overslept, that should help. Inherently, I've learned this. Hunter and Warlock, yeah, that's what it was. I've learned that if you try to be honest with some people, and you say, yeah, you suffer from insomnia, and yeah, I feel sleepy right now, they will build a narrative subconsciously in their head, and then or consciously even, and they will try to use that against you. And so then they will come back to you when you are wide awake and say, boy, you sound sleepy right now. And you're like, I know my body. I've been in it for a long, long time. Right now, you are wrong about that. And frankly, unless the second part of that sentence says, you sound sleepy, you should go take a nap with no repercussions whatsoever, then what you're saying is useless to me. Like, really. That's all you can say about it. Like you're giving pointless information, and it's often from people that don't really have a concern for your well-being. It's just used as some kind of bludgeon or tool to attack you, which is a stupid thing. It's like it's what's more human, natural and human than being sleepy. Yeah, being hungry. Yeah, use the same example as hungry. You sound hungry right now, but you can't go eat because right now, or I'm not going to give you any food right now so you can go eat to eat right now. So what are you really saying? It's like, haha, you're hungry but you can't eat. Haha, you're sleepy but you can't sleep. I don't know why people use that. And so, yeah, you can certainly see that there's a reason at least to immediately deny ever being sleeping. Just go, no, I'm not sleeping. You're just making that up. I don't know what you think you're hearing, but you're wrong. And that probably is the right response for some people. Is just inherently, sadly, that's kind of with all emotion and all conditions in general. I don't know if you really want to call insomnia a debilitating disability or anything like that, but it is certainly a condition that doesn't help you in life. But I could certainly see reasons to deny any weakness ever, because there are inconsiderate jerks out there. Let's see. Does this one have a secret? Let's see. Destroy all secrets. See, we need some quest cards, quest destroying cards. That would be crazy. Crazy nice. Yeah, I feel like it's weird that quests can't be destroyed. There should be some minion or something. Or maybe a hero replacement card that destroys quests. When you replace your hero, you replace your quests. That'd be interesting. Let's see, what else do we have to talk about? I finished Borderlands 2 for the time being. I do have to get back to it after the end of Halloween month. And I started playing Layers of Fear, which Layers of Fear is definitely a smaller, shorter game than I realized it was. So I'm going to have to play it at 30-minute increments and find something else to squeeze in that time slot, which shouldn't be too hard. There's a decent amount of kind of iffy horror games. Generally speaking, for Halloween month, I don't want to play a game that is just including zombies, because like so many games include zombies and there's really not any horror in most zombie games. They are just there as cheap and easy enemies to kill with nobody raising a stink that they are getting killed. But I think what I'll probably do is cycle through Left 4 Dead 1 and Left 4 Dead 2 and just see how much of that I can actually get done in a different experience, because yeah, that certainly is a game that it can probably go as many episodes as I'd want, as long as I try to run through an entire scenario and you succeed or fail on that. I should be pretty well okay. Layers of Fear said at the beginning of the game when I first launched it that the story was affected by your actions. It doesn't feel like it is. Honestly, it feels like it is a very early precursor to asset flip horror games. There's a lot of Unity assets in it. They're getting used very well, I would say. There is an artist in there that is messing with the things and the paintings in particular to make them look right. It feels like it was a great experiment to try and make a horrific game in some ways, but it really just boils down to jump scares. So you've got this 3-4 hour game which has DLC that it's all just kind of boiling down to jump scares, and the dramatic tension is certainly just not getting implemented.
One for all and all for me.
Not the way I would like it to be implemented. And there's no... I think part of this is because there's little voice acting. There's a lot of reading. It's Skyrim picking up a item and reading it. in a funny way, it's a lot like Gone Home, and I found Gone Home a lot scarier. When there was really nothing in Gone Home to scare you. There's like one easily explained away by a draft jump scare where Cross falls over in Gone Home, and that's it. Let's see. Five damage into to the adjacent ones. Okay. Now do I want this guy killed? Well, I can't kill him anyway, so 1, 2, 3, and let's see. I shouldn't summon 3 wolves right now. And yeah, so I'm not really having an amazing experience with Gone Home, not Gone Home, Layers of Fear. The thing that certainly is an issue there also comes. Wow, he did a full board clear. What was that? A flame strike? Yeah. Let's see. I can't play another secret, so I'm gonna do this, and then I'm going to do this, and then I'm gonna do that. Layers of Fear was a game that, at the very beginning, I said this game was probably overhyped and played by a lot of streamers and a lot of people. And now, in retrospect, having seen bits of it played by Giant Bomb and other streamers, the bits I've seen, I've already experienced myself, and it feels like nothing is played off differently. It really feels like if there is going to be a different ending or story to it, it's going to be with incredibly difficult to find collectibles, which you really would need to turn the brightness up on, and finding collectibles doesn't seem like there's enough there to justify continuing to play the game multiple times just for that, unless there's like the game is different the second time you play through, but that's not really a concept that's good. It really isn't. I mean, it's the same problem with Borderlands 2. It's like, yeah, Borderlands 2 on the New Game Plus or the New Game Plus Ultimate Vault Hunter mode probably is a slightly better experience because you're getting better guns, and it feels like in playing Borderlands 2 the first time through, I'm getting kind of limited to just blue level rarity guns, and so the only way I can even get up to a purple, let alone a gold, is by using golden keys. Let's see. We've got Matthias Diablo on the chat saying hi. Hi, Matthias. Yeah. I think that's how you pronounce Matthias, his first name. Let's see. What do I want? To give it more health. It's not really a great choice on any of them. So yeah, there's definitely not having a great experience. I'm just gonna burn in it. The one thing Layers of Fear, because it's so dark as a game, and because I put in new light bulbs in my room, I'm having to turn off like all the lights, and so they've gotten it to make it a little bit more spookier in my room just to play the game, but that's still not gonna affect me. Sure, Layers of Fear has twice already gotten me to jump back because of a jump scare, just a natural animalistic reaction to a jump scare. But I'm not really afraid. I'm not shivering in terror or anything like that. It's just you managed to make me jump with a loud noise or an unexpected movement. That's really not anything anything to be super happy with, and that's why most horror games don't really work on me. When I approach horror games, I'm really only approaching them because it allows the artist and the storytellers to tell something new and different. When you think about the movie Aliens, we had never seen an alien like the Xenomorph before, unless you were a H.R. Giger fan, which not everybody was, certainly. But I don't particularly find any of the Aliens movie franchise actually scary. I don't think for a second that a Xenomorph is gonna come knocking down my door and kill me. Like, it's just not realistic. It's kind of odd nobody has tried to make a horror game that is just set sort of in the real world with real fears. Like, I mean, you set a horror game in a ghetto in some country that is impoverished or war-torn. That's much more realistic. That's much more closer to home as far as trying to scare somebody than having zombies run around, having ghosts run around, having monsters and demons running around, particularly in a video game form where you're often the overpowered zombie killer, ghost killer, demon killer creature anyways. Like, Doom, for example, cannot be classified as a horror game, regardless of how many demons there are, because you, as the Doomslayer, are way more powerful, clearly. If anything, the horror story in Doom is the demons are terrified of you. Let's see. Matthias Diablo? He said Matthew basically. Well, I would have pronounced it that way if it had an H. But, okay. That's a weird way I think that you pronounce it. Probably in a different language. Alright, let's start covering the games, which means, at least recently, let's start covering all the terrible low-quality sex games that are rolling the slot machine on making some money on Steam. Now, before I start covering this game, it is worth pointing out that I am in danger here of becoming like so many other of the midstream and mainstream media that covers video games, and they see just these terrible games over and over again, and then they eventually form this narrative and this thought in their head that Steam needs to censor, Steam needs to get rid of all these bad games, and I'm not of that opinion right now at all, and I don't think I want to move towards that opinion. I do think that there's a couple things Steam does need to do. One is Steam needs to be better able to filter, which wouldn't affect me anyway, so it probably already is doing a pretty decent job on filtering just new games in general away from being seen by most people, because it definitely doesn't seem like they promote that very often. Let's see. Ooh, maybe I should have picked the dragon, shouldn't I? Oops. I also feel like Steam needs to limit people to only releasing one game per person, per company, per anything, per publisher even. Unless you're talking a major publisher like EA or Ubisoft or Activision or something like that. They could probably be given special whitelist permission to release 2 or 3, maybe even 4 or 5 games a month. But I don't want to see anybody releasing a game more often than, say, Big Fish Games releases, which is to say, I don't want more than once every 2 weeks or once a month releases from any company. And that would just stop a lot of the ridiculousness of things that get released on Steam inherently. Is that if you're a publisher and you want to publish a bunch of games, you're going to have to put some more work into it if you can only put one out a month, versus people, I've seen people put out 4 or 5 games on the exact same day. But moving on, we have Call of Booty, and the question here is, why is this not immediately flagged as a joke name or immediately used up and taken as a name? I guess the way Steam works is there are Steam IDs indicating different games, so games can have the same name, but there probably should be somebody looking at overlaps, just like one person getting an email whenever a game is listed that has the same name as the previous game, just to immediately go, heck, is this game just trying to ape or clone things? It wasn't but a couple of days ago that somebody tried to change the game name of an item so that they could commit Team Fortress 2 item trading scams. So they would make a item from a game that wasn't Team Fortress 2, they changed the name to make it look like it was from Team Fortress 2 to trade a worthless item for an item that was worth quite a lot. There's an inherent problem that there are items out there from Team Fortress 2 that are worth hundreds of dollars, but that's really what Steam is making all its money on. So Call of Booty is a free-to-play, new-to-the-action indie casual game, and I cannot for the life of me. They say it's a retro-style 2D platforming game in which you play as a health and safety inspector who must evade hordes of horny women who would have their way with you. Fast-paced, multi-level action. So this is literally just cut and paste images, I think, from a magazine or a website, and being put on a very ugly piece of junk 2D platforming game. Why anybody would make this, I don't know. The cutout women, they just slide across the screen, they don't move or anything like that. The character you're playing is an MS Paint animated character, so in no way does it match. All of the level is an MS Paint level character. There's just a lot of stupidity in this game. It's already reviewed 63% of 11 users, and it came out August 6th. I'm surprised anybody would buy this game, let alone review it. It's free. I guess the price is right there, but even in instances like this where a game is free, you know, getting games put out and getting a developer some kind of credibility is not a good thing. Like, this developer has a February 1st game that they put out called AI Anomaly for $5.99, and nobody has reviewed that, or not enough people have reviewed that. And the publishing company is Indie Retro Games, which this in no way is a indie retro game. I don't know how you'd even classify an indie retro game. Sure, there could be some old games that were independently developed, but you can't make old games today. They're not retro anymore. Matthias says, can we do 1 versus 1? Right now I'm on the the Asian account. So whatever your account on, send me a friend request if we haven't friended already. And if you're on when I'm on that account, just send me a challenge. Like right now on the Asian accounts, there's nobody on, so unless you play on the Asian account. First things first, though, I want to get these daily quests done as much as possible, and if a 1 versus 1 helps with that, I'll play, but certainly these streams can go very, very long particularly if I start playing with other people and it's not working towards some kind of goal. But yes, I definitely want to play with my friends. Moving on, we have a PC Gamer article. A 2K 4K texture pack from the Mass Effect trilogy has been updated with hundreds of new textures. So, what's the name of this mod? That's the first thing I'd like to do. Find out. Let's see.
Meddlesome insect.
Apparently, this article is not even talking about a specific mod with a specific name. It's really just a article talking about all the mods. Oh, they're calling it a lot, A-L-O-T. Alright, well, whatever. Inherently, there's a problem at this point whether anybody should play the Mass Effect trilogy. The Mass Effect 1 certainly had its fans, and I think for legitimate reasons. And then Mass Effect 2 certainly had a lot of people that were happy about it, and that it made some slight improvements. But then kind of everybody were very unhappy with at least the ending of Mass Effect 3, and everybody was very unhappy with Mass Effect Andromeda. So the series, when you look at it kind of objectively, the Mass Effect series is batting 50-50. And Assassin's Creed as a series would not have succeeded had Assassin's Creed 1 been downright awful, Assassin's Creed 2 had been downright awful, and then there happened to be 2 good ones. They run slightly better odds than that. I think Assassin's Creed 1 was moderately good, 2 was definitely good, Brotherhood was definitely good, so they had like 3 really good ones. Revelations wasn't that so great, but it wasn't terrible. 3 was pretty bad, but then 4 came out and that was pretty good. And then 5 and 6 probably not so great, but then Origins has been really good. So they've managed to get closer to a 2/3 good ratio versus a 50% or 1/2 good ratio. And so yeah, I just don't know if Mass Effect deserves to be played. It kind of needs a remake. If they had remastered the storyline of the first 3 games, do a very Japanese thing there, and just take the storyline of the first 3 games and merge them together, and you probably don't need to really do any editing at all. Maybe edit some of the fighting sections out, because I don't think anybody was really there for the fighting sections so much.
Let the hunt begin.
And then have like one massive reboot. Tomb Raider Anniversary did kind of the same thing, although in Tomb Raider's case, you're merging 3 really old games. Next game we have on Steam is called Full Metal Renegade. It's a robot mecha single player game. I guess I wouldn't call this an asset flip just because I don't know. For a second there, looking at the heads-up display, I had this thought in my head, like, all things with heads-up displays are asset focused, and then I'm like, no, that's not true. If anything, this is probably a cell phone port, because there's a button in the lower right-hand corner that looks like it fires missiles. You wouldn't need that if you were using a keyboard or controller. And yeah, it does look like it's pretty decently looking cell phone port, but that's kind of it. It's 30% off for $4.89. It's not in Japanese, it's German, English, simplified Chinese, Portuguese, and Russian, and that is probably not a good indicator, because if you're gonna play a mecha game, I think you're so heavily entwined into playing Japanese mecha games, like the people who created mecha, that that really doesn't make any sense at all, for it to not have a Japanese translation. There is a whole series of animes called Full Metal something, Full Metal Panic, Full Metal Jacket. It was not an anime, that was a Vietnam War movie, Western movie. Let's see, the games this developer has made, it was a game we talked about a couple of streams ago called Boobs Zerman, which is kind of Bomberman with anime girls, and you blow up their clothes, and strike cars. So this developer is all over the place, and yeah, I can't justify suggesting this game. It doesn't look like there's anything special happening. Let's see. Can I play something else? This. So yeah, moving over, PC Gamer is apparently running out of things to write about, so they've got a help yourself type article called "What is K-Mode Exception Not Handled, and How Do I Fix It?" Which that sounds like to me it's probably kernel exception error, which is to say that some really bad programming got put to the low level of kernel that runs your operating system, an overflow or underflow type value, and there's probably very little you can do with that. It's a blue screen of death type of things. And they're saying the most likely culprit is a problematic driver. Let's see. They're saying the quick fix is to disable fast startup, which, okay, maybe that would, because fast startup isn't a full boot and reloading of all everything Windows would use. Updating the problem driver. Yeah, how are you supposed to find the problem driver? It says run the memory diagnostic tool to see if it's your RAM. Yep. Like, very... honestly, most of these errors, unless you're having it very consistently, are so random and unlikely to ever be found. If it's happening all the time, then it could be... that's when you have to start narrowing it down, but also there's just a whole level of PC Gamer not really telling you anything helpful and writing this article just for search engine optimization so that they can I'm supposed to be playing these 100 cards and I'm not focusing enough on them. So yeah, I wanted to scroll through that article, but really it wasn't worth talking about. I can only really talk for myself, but with Windows 10, with my modern computer, I do not have inherent problems with the entire operating system or anything like that. I mostly try to avoid problems, system-wide problems, by not installing a lot of things. Compared to previous versions of the game, of the operating systems, like, you don't really need a firewall, you don't really need a virus scanner, because they're all built into Windows 10 and thus hopefully tied into the systems in a much better way and less likely to crash. Where I run into problems is an actual hardware problem of the GTX 970, and that being not an actual 4 GB video card at the speeds that it was sold at, and just some weirdness with particularly the Lego games and the Capcom Resident Evil 4 games. Let's see, I'm gonna hold on to all the ones that actually are green style cards, hunter class cards. And I guess I'm certainly glad that I don't have system-wide problems with my new PC, because that would be incredibly devastating if in the middle of streaming and recording my computer would just reboot all of the time.
Reporting for duty.
So right now I'm watching a new trailer. This is the Darksiders 3 Rise of the Apocalypse trailer, and it is cutscening, well, it's combining cutscenes from the first game at the very beginning where the apocalypse started, which that cutscene was used as a trailer originally, and honestly, it's not super connected to what the actual game was. It's kind of a, it's really flashy and such, but it shows Earth before the apocalypse, and then the game skips forward. It also integrates some new cutscenes of death and new cutscenes of fury, and so they are definitely trying to have fury, well, have death in particular be part of the whole conflict, instead of just completely forgetting about him. But I wouldn't be surprised if death really is only mentioned in passing text and passing cutscenes. I bet war and death don't play any part in Darksiders 3, and maybe they just show up at the end like the previous two games, where all 4 of the horsemen show up at the same time, when war calls them all by breaking the final seal. That's probably all you're gonna get, is just the same ending we got with Darksiders 2 and Darksiders 1. But it seems like Fury, if you take from this, it seems like Fury would have been around when War was captured by the Char Council and accused of betraying his oath. Seems like she didn't really bat an eye to betray him. They are kind of this weird. It seems like Fury is following the Char Council's orders, at least at the beginning of the game, which would explain why she has a female ghost on her, following her around, like there was a ghost following around War at the beginning of in the first game. Their whole relationship to each other is kind of weird. You get this idea that maybe they like each other and are extremely loyal to each other, but then again they may not care about each other at all. They're all Nephilim, and they've all killed, or at least death killed, all the other Nephilim. So yeah, Darksiders 3 is supposed to come out, I believe, in October, I think, maybe November, maybe December. It's not very far off, and if somebody was gonna pre-order that game and gift it to me, I would cover that day one, because certainly I love the Darksiders series, and I'm probably going to be slightly overhyped about it. Although my level of being overhyped probably is not as bad as most critics' level of being overhyped, because I can recognize it in myself and try and be objective still, as objective as one can be. Whereas just today you have like James Sterling complaining about Visual Games being shut down yet again, and it's like they just bring up the same things over and over again. So yeah, but I doubt I'm gonna have really excuse me, I doubt I'm really gonna have the budget to spend to buy Darksiders 3 when it first comes out. And inherently, even though I am getting more subscribers, and maybe I'll get more viewers because YouTube is kicking more people off their services, I guess I'll leave that there, because I really don't care if Alex Jones is kicked off YouTube or not. It has nothing to do with the video game critics coverage, unless it turns out that tons of people leave YouTube in general over it, or tons of people start watching YouTube in general. The idea that there's an entire mass audiences that aren't using YouTube right now, and at any point in the future would start using YouTube, though, is pretty unbelievable. But yeah, my point I was trying to make before I went on a tangent is, even if I do play Darksiders 3 brand new, it's mostly because I want to play it brand new. It's not going to get me a significantly larger amount of viewers. Let's see. So Gamasutra has a article. New Unity report suggests that 67% of indies plan to self-publish, which is a terrible, terrible title. Because if you are an indie, you have to self-publish, or you're not an independent person anymore. Like, you're just not. Even if you've made 100% of your game before you've ever talked to a publisher, and then the publisher is, even if the publisher tells you we're not going to do anything for free, and so you're going to have to pay us to publish your game, you're still really not an independent developer. You're still getting the name of that publisher behind them. You're just not independent. It's like saying you're independent when there's 10 people in the room. You can't be alone. Yeah, it's like saying you're alone when there's 10 people in a room. No, you can't be alone when there's 10 people in a room. Not physically, at least. Maybe mentally or emotionally. So this really makes no sense. It really comes down to Unity asking people to self-identify as independent game studios. People being more than willing to say, yes, we're an independent we're an independent game studio than saying, hey, are you going to use a publisher or not? And it's like, wait a minute, no. Oh, the answer should have been like 100% of indies plan to self-publish, because that's what independent means. Now, we'll get to it eventually, but I guess I could probably already talk about it right now. Fortnite for Android is not going to use the Google Play Store, which assumedly that means unless Epic is going to try and make its own app store of some sort, or use the Amazon App Store or some other app store. It seems to me it'll just be a direct download, and part of this certainly is because they don't want to give a 30% cut to Google, and because it wouldn't really improve on their popularity to be on the Play Store anyways. Sure, there will be people who struggle to find Fortnite on their cell phones, but that's probably not a big issue to them. My tinfoil hat theory on this, and I haven't heard anyone look at it from this perspective, Unity by far is the biggest engine, to my knowledge, that's used to make apps, not just games, but apps on the Google Play Store. And Epic, who owns the... wait a minute. Let me think about this. Does Epic own Unreal? Yeah, Epic owns Unreal. Alright. So I have to change my theory midstream here, because I just realized a flaw in my thought. Unity by far is the most used engine, but I would say Unreal is one of the secondary most used engines to make cell phone games. So I gotta check this out. Let's see. I gotta double check my facts here. Checking facts. Checking facts. Epic Games. Wikipedia. Epic Games makes Fortnite.
I wonder.
Let's see.
Chill out.
I'll get right on it. Is this really necessary? Sure, send the big guy. Sure, send the big guy.
As you command.
Alright, let's see. Yes, Epic Games developed the Unreal Engine. Let's see. And the Unreal Engine isn't Unity, definitely, and so it's probably a secondary engine. But it is an engine nonetheless. And let's see. The fact here might be that what they're trying to do, and Epic has certainly been accused of being very sneaky about doing stuff like this before, and playing very hardball with people. I suspect what they're trying to do is push Google into reducing the amount of a cut from 30% down to a much smaller amount. And I should put that right here. The reason this would help Unreal and Unity, frankly, is because then more people could buy the license for Unreal games and Unreal Engine, make games and sell them on the store. And so Epic makes more money, tinfoil hat theory here, will make more money on the back end getting license fees from moderately successful games that sell on the Google Play Store versus what they would make by selling on the Apple Store, on the Google Play Store, and yeah, and just selling Fortnite alone. So they're trying to make, in my theory here, I think they're trying to make more money in the long run because they know Fortnite is probably going to become a burnt out product of sorts, and it's not going to be super popular always. They're trying to push Google into taking less of a cut so that people make more games, so people license Unreal more. Unity doesn't really play any role in there. I was just confused about which one they made. One of them desperately needs to change their names. But I really bungled that conversation up too. So yeah, I really screwed that up. If any of that made sense, congratulations. Moving on, Your Gamer has an article, G, just the letter G, and Sagat hits Street Fighter today. So a couple of new Street Fighter characters are being added to Street Fighter 5. You know, looking right now at Street Fighter 5, as I'm saying it now with no health bars or anything, I'm not sure that they've really gone in a direction that interests me. Seems like the characters are a little too big and they're a little too tall. Seems like the attacks and such are a little slower than I would normally expect. Let's see. We've got about 18 more Warlock cards to play. We did pretty good for one game. Let's go back. Yeah, it feels like Street Fighter 5 definitely is trying to be the fighting game where you go play a little bit slower and strategically going for the esports players than anything else. It's not really much of an article. 2 more characters are added to a fighting game. Hooray. In fact, the exact next article I have is Fighting EX Layer free DLC characters. Volcano Rosio and Pulam Parna have gameplay videos. So, let's see. And Fighting EX Layer uses Unreal 2. And in comparison, Fighting EX Layer, just watching this video, is the characters are faster, they have the health bars and everything on the screen, just things I would expect to see in a fighting game. It seems like they have super meters, which I suppose there could be an argument between making fighting games without super meters and making games with super meters, but the vast majority of fighting games would have super meters, and yes, much quicker. 1 round was won. So yeah, just seeing the videos immediately, I would prefer to play Fighting EX Layer over Street Fighter. 5 as somebody who's just gonna button mash and try to have fun that way. But then I guess introducing new characters means something different to a pro versus a regular player. To me, introducing new characters means it's something new to look at. But to a pro, it might be a whole new moveset and a whole new collection of abilities. Yeah, I don't know what else you really take from this, though. I could say visually I like the colors and the styles and the proportions of the characters of fighting EX Layer more than Street Fighter V, but also I probably could find a dozen fighting games I'd probably pick over both of them. So moving on, we have a GameIndustry.biz, so I guess I'm keeping GameIndustry.biz. If anything, I would say TechRaptor is at the higher risk of being eliminated as a news source because TechRaptor just doesn't put out enough information. GameIndustry.biz has an article called "All the Small Things Ben Brode Says Devs Often Overlook Key Areas." Former Hearthstone director lays out little things in in-game dev that pay big dividends. Talks about fostering a positive community and a healthy team. So it's kind of funny. How do you take anything Ben Brode says as gospel when he doesn't work for Hearthstone anymore? So it's a weird self-promotion transition he's doing here, where he's saying, well, I don't work for these people anymore, but I was really good at being the boss when I did work there. That's boss level shenanigans, certainly. +2.
Mushroom power!
So So Ben Brode moved on as to co-found Second Dinner. He spent 15 years working at Blizzard, which is a bit of a misnomer because it's hardly like he was 15 years as the person in charge. I think he was like an intern when he first started. So he's been there long enough, so it's not like I'm assuming that in the background he was fired, or I imagine he just had his whole time there. But frankly, if you've been in a job for 15 years, you might as well just stay at the job for another 15 years and have your entire career there. Have a 30-year career and then retire. There's a quote here: "It had to feel as tight as possible, so there was never a moment when you had something you wanted to do, but the game wasn't doing." Which I assume he's talking about Hearthstone, which definitely not the case in Hearthstone. There's, because of the fact that you're playing against another player, it totally feels like at times the game should be doing something it isn't, because that rope is just going down and the other player isn't playing. Also, shutter walk, when you start doing those shutter walk combos and the game is just doing action after action after action after action, it gets boring after the first few times. Just even the slight delay when you draw a card right after somebody ends a turn is not as tight I mean, here you got a great example. The game's doing nothing because the player's doing nothing. Or it's showing you this. But you hear that ding, and then you have the card draw, and it shows up in your face for a second, and then it shows here. It is totally not as tight as possible. Like, maybe they just need to put in a increased game speed slider. But for me, I'm a pretty fast person sometimes, and I could certainly see it speed up. So I don't agree with Big and Broad this way. Next quote is, when you can impact all the decision making and thinking, then players can level up as designers. Understand where you're coming from and really have a good discussion. That's, I don't even know how to break down this sentence. It's like, when you can impart all the decision making and thinking, comma, then players can level up as designers, comma, understand where you're coming from, comma, and have a really good discussion. That is the worst run-on sentence I've seen in a long time. Like, no clue. No clue what he's even trying to say there. It sounds good until you try to break it down. I wouldn't put it past the thought that Ben Brode really is not very good communicator. That he was just kind of put in charge of Hearthstone, and Hearthstone managed to succeed just out of luck and being behind, being supported by Blizzard and Activision. Or maybe he's just a bad public communicator. Next quote we have is, "We just never worked overtime when I was on the Hearthstone team. The culture on the team was really rigid about making sure people didn't burn out. It came from the top." So, if there's in my opinion, and this is probably a slightly jaded opinion, but I think slightly accurate too. If management from the top says no overtime, it is not because they don't want people burned out. It's because they don't want to pay overtime. In the end, the effect is the same, and I would much prefer to deal with a management that says no overtime versus a management that says everybody's going to work overtime regardless of whether you want to or not, because that is totally where people burn out very, very quickly. The way Hearthstone releases were done previously, when Ben Brode was in charge, the announced dates and the times that expansions come out were really never announced. So I imagine there were probably several instances where they ran late and didn't get the job done, which I guess fine, whatever. Hearthstone, I can't say Hearthstone really suffered because it was always late to release expansions. There were a couple instances though where it seems like it was pretty obvious they were late to release expansions, or bits of expansions. It also feels like some of the solo adventure expansions were full of ideas that just could not be integrated into the main game, and so they got thrown away in single player expansions, which was a pretty good way to deal with that content, but I wouldn't say it was the best way to deal with that content. Let's see if there's any other quotes. No, that's it. In the end, this is not what I wanted to hear from Ben Brode as his first I'm back to making public statement. Like, we didn't need him to make comments on his old job, because any comments he makes now is really not useful. If he said something that irritated everybody and they thought, well, I'm not going to play Hearthstone anymore there's no reason to make that opinion, because he doesn't work or have any say in how Hearthstone is done, and we've already seen things change. Like now we're getting release dates for expansions, and this new expansion, having looked at all the cards, is at the very least focusing on mechs, where mechs have been forgotten for a long time, and so at least there's a shift somewhat in focus. And if he said something really amazing and really cool about Hearthstone, well, he doesn't work there. So even if that was going to get me hyped for the next expansion, who knows if it really was going to happen. As far as we know, the entire development of Hearthstone were brought into a meeting the day after Ben Brode left and said, we're not doing anything he thought we were doing. We're going in a completely different direction, and we're keeping him out of the loop. So, and for Ben Brode, he should just be talking about second dinner. He should be like, I'm hiring, I'm looking for new employees, we're pitching ideas. It would have been much more interesting to say, hey, we're looking for new employees, and that is that. Alright. Well, I want to be pretty consistent here. We have 4 more cards that need to be played. So let's jump into a game and then just leave after we've played 4 games. We're running a little bit late. So Dead Cells is now on Steam. It is rated very positively, 94% positive, of 15,000 user reviews over its lifetime, and 93% positive of 520 user reviews in the last 30 days. Version 1.0. Dead Cells has been in early access for a while. I thought it came out last stream, so maybe I've talked about it, or maybe they did something weird. I don't know. Dead Cells is so highly positive that I need to review it. I need to play it. It's got an 89 on OpenCritic right now. It's 20% off for $20, and it seems like there's just a soundtrack. The not a Metroidvania game is bundle is 33% off for $51.96, $51.96, and that includes Guacamelee and alright, so that's 2 cards, and Salt and Sanctuary, Dead Cells, and Sundered. I do need to play this game, but personally, I feel like Dead Cells is just a fighting game in a Metroidvania environment. I don't feel like you're going to get items that open pathways. I don't feel like there's going to be a bunch of secrets. I think a lot of the stuff that are from the Metroid game are really going to be missing. I think you're getting a lot closer to a Castlevania game, where yes, there are secrets in Castlevania too, but not as many in my opinion. Also, I haven't really played the Castlevania game, so I'd be totally wrong about that. So yeah, it being not a Metroidvania game bundle is probably accurate. It's kind of not a Metroidvania, it's just stealing one idea from it, which is the floor layout. From what I hear, there's very little to no to know. Alright, so I'm gonna play this card next time, and then I'm gonna concede. That's it. Gamasutra has an article. Gamefly is going to axe its video streaming service in August. So they're shutting down the video game streaming service on August 31st, only a few months after EA acquired the assets to the company's cloud gaming tech assets and personnel. So,
'Cause I got a lot of things to do. 'Cause I got a lot of things to do. 'Cause I got a lot of things to do. 'Cause I got a lot of things to do. 'Cause I got a lot of things to do. 'Cause I got a lot of things to do. 'Cause I got a lot of things to do. 'Cause I got a lot of things to do. 'Cause I got a lot of things to do. 'Cause I got a lot of things to do. 'Cause I got a lot of things to do. 'Cause I got a lot of things to do. 'Cause I got a lot of things to do. 'Cause I got a lot of things to do. 'Cause I got a lot of things to do. 'Cause I got a lot of things to do. 'Cause I got a lot of things to do. 'Cause I got a lot of things to do. 'Cause I got a lot of things to do. 'Cause I got a lot of things to do. 'Cause I got a lot of things to do. 'Cause I got a lot of things to do. 'Cause I got a lot of things to do. 'C
it seems like this Gamefly was streaming on the Amazon Fire TV, and then it added its services to smart TVs and streaming sticks alongside the other Amazon Fire-esque top boxes is what they're calling them.
Job's done.
I'm just gonna concede.
You win.
There's currently no word as to why Gamefly decided to step back from the streaming market. Well, I can tell you the word right now is because the streaming market's not big, it's not popular, and it doesn't work in the United States, at least because of internet speeds. Since EA acquired this, I imagine EA is going to try to do an EA Origin streaming service, and may very well already have a streaming service, and that would make some sense. But I also wouldn't be surprised if what they do is try to integrate it into some of their games, and then that is it. Well, that is it for the Asian account, so stay tuned if you're watching live. Otherwise, as always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want to friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below in the description box. And if you want to support me, friend me on Steam and gift me a game or a gift card, or send me a game code through Twitter direct message. Again, pushing to see if I can get somebody to pre-order like the good, one of the good versions of Darksiders 3. It's kind of confusing. There's the basic version, there's the version that's the season pass, and then there's a really, really expensive version that includes the 2 previous games. I already own the 2 previous games, so I don't need that one. I need the one with the season pass if someone would be so kind. But that is certainly asking for quite a lot. That's it for this recording. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.
The tavern's always open.
Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and we're back to another recording of Hearthstone. Today is Monday, August 6th. We started a little late. I've got a challenge a friend quest, so immediately, I need somebody to come online on the European account and send me a friend request if they haven't friended me before, or just log on and send me a challenge. Otherwise, what do I need? 2 victories with any kind, 3 victories with Druid or Rogue, so that all lines up pretty well. I want to come over and just make sure any new cards have been marked as not new on all these accounts. Let's see, this is a European account, so this shouldn't be in my account. I get rid of gold on European and the main account to have dust for HS replay, which I think I'm gonna have so much dust. HS replay is totally going to help me build better decks next time as the next expansion happens. Druid or Rogue? Let's stick with probably a hand Druid deck. Yes, might as well play ranked. And there we go. I don't think I have an incredibly large amount of news, but I do need to burn through it. Like, forever I'm in this position where if I just get too talky about news articles or cover the games too slowly, that even a small amount of news of games coming out is too much, and I should filter games a little bit better. For instance, I'm looking at this game called Slime Gear. It looks like MS Paint level graphics. There's nothing here that would convince me to pay its full price of $4.99, which is what they want right now. There's no discount. It's kind of ridiculous that any game would come out on Steam without a initial sale, since that is exactly what all your competition is doing. Even if your game is the best game ever, if Borderlands 3 or Half-Life 3 came out with no sale initially, I think you still run the risk of it being selling less.
My greeting.
Like, inherently, that's why things come out priced higher than they should be in the first place. They're usually at least 20% marked up over what you really want them to sell as, just so you can have a 10% sale or 20% off for the first few weeks. Let's see, moving on, PC Gamer has an article. Samsung is building new high-capacity SSDs to flood the market with 1 terabyte drives. The upcoming drives will range from capacity from 1 terabyte to 4 terabytes. I don't know if it's for end users, but there are definitely going to be some reasons in which you would want a 4 terabyte SSD for small businesses and such. I think inherently though, if you're trying to, well, even if you're trying to do a raid with a bunch of 4 terabyte SSDs, that might help speed things up, depending on how many actual disk writes you're getting, and how many of those disk writes and disk reads are based on actual services needing the disk to read or write to the disk, and how much of that is just bad programming. I saw a programming comment that just by programming something wrong, they reduced the amount of latency by like 512%, just because it was programmed very badly. And I saw another programming thing with an Arduino where the speed of just flipping a light on and off was incredibly slow, just based on how you programmed it. If you use the basic simple programming code, it was way slower, because there was included pre-written functions in that basic code that were taking a lot of extra processing power. However, I do also want to point out this is just more argument that PC Gamer is having trouble writing any video game articles these days, because this isn't like a real announcement. Nobody else in the hardware tech industry is going to be talking about this. I think Samsung announced this probably weeks ago, and it's just really an announcement of, we're working to make bigger SSDs. Yeah, no duh. Of course, you should be. You should always be working to make bigger SSDs. My SSD is like 512 gigabytes. If I had a 1 terabyte SSD, I'd probably be set. It would let me have 10 to 20 games always installed on the SSD. It would let me record a couple more days of footage without running the risk of filling up the hard drive. I have been in incidences where I was in the middle of recording a very visually intense game, and it was taking up so much space that I filled up the hard drive and lost some footage. But that doesn't happen all the time. It also doesn't work very well with OBS. OBS should just stop the recording because it corrupts the entire recording. But it also has to do with, I suppose, the format of video I'm recording. Alright, I'm hesitant to talk about this game. There's a game on this on Steam called Banzo-Marks of Slavery. It says Banzo-Marks of Slavery is a turn-based strategy and resource management game. Command the vultures Quilombo at Brazil Imperial Age and be responsible for organizing, producing food, protecting the Quilombo, attacking farms, and releasing enslaved people. Okay. So it's inherently probably a political game with probably some revisionist history in it, but it's hard to not be on the side of freeing slaves anywhere. This game just doesn't look like it's good enough to try to tackle this story. But it doesn't look terrible either. A lot of it looks like text. A lot of it looks like some craziness. This doesn't look like it's amazingly offensive either. And we've seen in the past some games that try to use slavery as just a offensive looking thing.
Is someone injured?
I tried to play a game that was made by an African company that was really good looking and cool, but it was just so slow that I couldn't make it past a couple hours in it. And there was something Legend of the Cory Dam. Oh no, this one's in English and Portuguese Brazil. It says it's E from everyone. Let's see what all the achievements say, because that might give me an indication of how seriously they really are taking this. See, in the end, I think there's a weirdness here where you're going to free slaves, but then you're also going to get workers as a resource management game to run your farm. So in what ways are you not, as the character, just enslaving people yourself, and or at least taking advantage of very disenfranchised people? I know in Africa there's certainly a lot of tribal warfare and using let's see, it says this game won the App Pra Cultura public contest and was funded by the Brazilian Ministry of Culture. So it's a Brazilian propaganda piece, sort of. I mean, when the government funds something, there's some amount of propaganda already in it, usually speaking. Maybe they were totally hands off with it, but I doubt it. So we need to draw cards. Draw. And draw. Job's done. Need to gain armor.
Time waits for no one.
Actually, that was what I was supposed to be doing. I guess I'm gonna put Bonzo on my wish list. We'll see what other user reviews have to say about it. Right now, there are none in my language. This looks like this might be a very educational game, but getting your history or education from a video game is probably something an idiot would do. Not helpful, but I'll keep an eye on it. Moving on, PC Gamer has a article, get a GTX 1080 for just $430 at Amazon. The prices keep falling. This, I believe, is an EVGA card, and I don't know if EVGA does good quality or bad quality. I have all gigabyte hardware, so I kind of have some loyalty there. Maybe that's ridiculous and I shouldn't, but right now I do. Deal 4 damage to a minion. In return. So this is like the third PC Gamer article not talking about video games. They really have nothing to say. Let's see. Gamasutra has an article. SNK artist discusses discrimination in the Japanese game industry. Gender discrimination in the workplace has been notorious throughout the history of game development. Citation needed, please. And it was no different back in the 90s Japan, especially for early SNK artist Hiroko Yokoyama. Thanks to a translation provided by Necrosoft Games Brandon Sheffield. So you've got an article here that's been translated that I know Gamasutra did not have anybody look at that translation just to start off with. Like, we know for a fact they didn't. Because they don't really have anybody that works for them, it seems. Alright. Let's see, gain more cards.
Beetleberries! My favorite! My favorite!
Let's do this.
Job done.
And in return, let's see. Let's continue here though. Yokoyama describes how the unnamed company she worked with in the 90s wanted to train 2 artists in the rising tech of 3D polygons, but any woman applicants were instantly dismissed. She volunteered to learn the tech herself after the 2 trained workers had left the company, but being married, her boss declined on the basis that married women don't work properly after giving birth. He also apparently dismissed her work on the grounds that she was fat, ugly otaku, and rolled off his comments as it's just a joke excuse. Certainly, there's also some, these are coming from tweets. Certainly this is true. I don't think any female who works in Japan would disagree that there isn't some major biases against women in the work environment. There's also some major biases against lots of other people in Japan. I think culturally, Japan is definitely struggling with an older age population that won't accept anybody who is not themselves. That is, if you look at like Nintendo, who is the most prominent female employee of Nintendo of Japan? There is nobody. Who is the most prominent female employee of Nintendo of America? I can't name anybody. So, yeah, that's certainly a case. But then again, how many prominent Nintendo employees do you know in general? There is a bigger issue of just workers don't matter.
I'm waiting for no one.
But it really, also you could rephrase this as she worked for one jerk boss who is like a lot of jerk bosses, and I think in fairness, all around the world there are jerk bosses who think and feel the exact same thing. Stereotyping from anybody is not going to get you very far. I can stereotype all employers and say they're all like this jerk boss. I can stereotype all women and say that once they're married, they don't work as well. And there certainly are examples that will feed into any stereotype always. Well, inherently, the story, what I take from this is an incident from the 90s, and
It's harvest time.
it's not giving us anything actionable now that we're in 2018. Like, for all we know, that jerk boss has died, has moved on, has retired. Is there anything to say there? If she was saying this happened last week, then she could try to make some outcry against it, and people could get behind her. But you can't really do anything like that. If this were actionable crimes, if this was something where he assaulted her, then hopefully the statute of limitations in Japan wouldn't have been over. Here at the end of this article, it says Yokoyama says she's no longer working in the industry, but is aware that gender discrimination remains active and expresses hope that the situation improves in the future. Like, well, how are you aware that the situation remains active? Like, tell that story. That would have been a better story to tell. And frankly, from a United States position, I can't affect Japanese people. I can't affect Japanese laws. Japan, the Japanese people need to pass their own laws and their own social pressure against bad actions. So this really is a useless article to me. It really is. It's just to push a narrative that there's sexism in the video game industry that is incredibly rampant and incredibly higher than any other industry. And the solution, I think, that people who push this agenda is that, I don't know, women should be given free rides and hired even if they're not qualified. Women should be given promotions, or the entire video game industry should be run by women and only women. I would much prefer meritocracy. And yeah, that's all I can really leave it on. I don't want to get into a rant on it. I'd just like to see people with merit and skill be in charge of making video games, so video games are good, so I don't have to play bad video games. Man, boy do I hate Rock Paper Shotgun's new site. Moving on, Rock Paper Shotgun has an article, return of some well-worn dungeons in the Bard's Tale trilogy next week. So the Bard's Trilogy remaster let's see. What launches August 14th. I'm not sure. The Bard's Trilogy is a remaster of the first 3 Bard's Tale games. I'm not sure if the graphics are gonna still be worth playing. It's a tiny little dungeon crawler in the top left of the screen, and then the vast majority of the screen is just scrolls where you see text and stats at the bottom of the bottom third of the screen. So it's just little animated GIFs, and that's kind of it in the top left. It's barely a visual game at all. It's basically like a text-based game, and I know the Bard's Tale has historical significance, and for that reason I might spotlight a game like the Bard's Tale Trilogy. Yeah, it's called the Bard's Tale Trilogy, and so I'll put it on my wish list. But in all honesty, if anybody really wanted me to cover this game from the beginning to end, I don't think I could stick with that. Like, that's just too much of a time commitment looking at ugly things. I'm pretty visual. Bard's Tale 4 is coming out, which, okay, so at that level there's going to be let's see.
I'm waiting for no other one.
Maybe Bard's Tale 4 is a little bit more graphical and more interesting to play, and I imagine if it is more graphical and more worth playing. Let me see if I can actually find Bard's Tale 4 on Steam. I imagine at that point you could jump into it. No, they don't have a listing on Steam. And the developer that made this also made the the games, Star Wars: The Clone Wars Republic Heroes, which is negatively reviewed, and Blade Kitten, which, okay. Blade Kitten, I believe, is one of the really bad games that I have the cover. Let's see.
My will is not my own.
Do this. And then don't play this. Moving on, Gamasutra has a blog, a handy art assets guide for social media presence. It's a blog by this person. It's talking about building up your social media presence. I imagine as a game developer,
It's time for a little blood.
The guide is a list and a pack of source files available on GitHub. Let's see. So what it's telling you is what type of picture formats are accepted by Steam Store page, which I imagine this information is available elsewhere, but you might grab it if you were a publisher from one central location. It's telling you that Steam accepts PNG and JPEGs, and the header capsule image is like 460 by 215 pixel. Smaller capsule image is 231 by 87 pixels. And it just keeps going on and on. A minimum of 5 screenshots are needed. And a page on the background is optional. The Steam Community Hub accepts mostly JPEGs. The Steam Developer Pages accepts JPEGs. Twitter accepts PNG and JPEGs. And you can make a header profile on the profile folder and an image website card, which I don't know what that is. Facebook accepts JPEGs, GIFs, and PNGs. YouTube accepts JPEG, GIFs, BMPs, and PNGs. It has a let's see, the channel icon is 800 by 800 pixels, but also there's a channel icon that's 98 by 98 pixels. And then there's channel art and channel art safe area for text and logos. Let's see. I should have played this first.
Time waits for no one.
And then Reddit, then Discord, then LinkedIn, then Instagram, then Pinterest, then PressKit, PressKit, then Google AdWords ads. So actually this is probably a good just location to say, here's the resolutions and that you need to work in for your artist. Even if you're not a video game developer, if you're just trying to have any kind of social media presence. For example here, I don't have a Steam store or a community hub. I don't think I have a community hub, but I certainly have Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. I have a Discord. I haven't done anything special with that. I technically have an Instagram. I don't think I have a Pinterest. So a considerable amount of these source files are actually useful just to a YouTube streamer. And I would fully admit that the reason why my channel has not succeeded as well as it probably could have is based on just a lack of having artistic ability. If I was capable of producing more thumbnails or any thumbnails that caught people's eye, or just producing thumbnails period, I would probably get 4 to 5 times as many views just on the face of it. Alright.
The sun has set for me.
We've got a game on Steam called Not Without You. It's an early access game. It looks to me like a cell phone port. It's called Not Without You, and apparently you're controlling a cat that is, or you're controlling multiple cats. And both cats have to jump on the red dots at the same time. Or all the cats have to jump on the red dots at the same time. Or they have to be in a chain. The graphics don't look very good though. So it's $1.99. It might be a decent little puzzle cell phone game, but it certainly doesn't look interesting enough to justify being played on Steam or being on Steam. Let's see, what are we trying to do again? Get victories. We could come over. Oh, and I need to be adding friends too. Let's see if we can send some friend requests and get some random people on there. Let's just give it a second and then we'll play a rogue game. Tempo Rogue. Next game we have on Steam is called Kingdoms of Marza, M-A-R-A-Z-I-A. Says it's a massively multiplayer RPG. It looks like it's a hex-based type game. It's only online multiplayer, so I'd never play it. It's 30% off for $13.99. The graphics do not look good enough for the $13. This is a 60 cents game at most, and trying to make it multiplayer seems totally insane. It's the first game from this developer also. Like, you really need to make a single player version of your game as your first release, and then say, hey, we're gonna make a multiplayer version, or we're gonna add multiplayer, or we're gonna make that DLC or something. You can't, as your first game, say this is gonna be multiplayer and we're gonna get that to work perfectly and we're gonna have an audience and it'll make sense.
Job's done.
I don't think it's a super fair comparison, but Activision Blizzard, like, first games they released were single player. Like Warcraft 1, 2, and 3 happened before World of Warcraft, I believe. Maybe at least 1 or 2 did. Diablo 1, 2 happened, and they didn't really have multiplayer. Hearthstone and Heroes of the Storm much later in Activision Blizzard's history. Next game we have on Steam is called Alter Army, A-L-T-E-R space Army, A-R-M-Y.
I don't need any of you.
Here we go.
Let's see, Alter Army is a hardcore fast-paced action platformer with punchy combat overflowing with game feels. Seriously, people need to speak proper English in their descriptions and not go for try to be cool with like the kids. Explore a dying civilization and find out what happened and why you're here collecting crystals. Okay. So, looking at the video,
Speak your piece.
it does seem like it is a fast-paced run, dash, punching up, beat 'em up platformer game. Graphics aren't amazingly good, but you're moving so fast and there's so much on the screen, it's not a huge issue. I imagine in a lot of ways that in the same ways that Dead Cells would just get annoying after a while for all the button mashing you're doing. I kind of wonder if this would be the similar experience.
Job's done.
But I can't immediately dismiss this either. Yes, the graphics don't look great. Yes, it does kind of look like if you took Super Meat Boy speed and mixed it with beat 'em up fighting. It's the first game from this developer. It's 10% off for $4.49. And I don't think I'd be giving it a fair shake if I didn't put it on my wish list and keep an eye on it. The one recommendation, it says combat is bad, also game freezes a lot, decent game though, in dire need of a lot of polish. I editorialized what they said there and removed the cussing.
Here we go.
So yeah, I'll keep an eye on Alter Army, but I can't really recommend it. So we had a game, I believe a Hinta Sokoban game came out just a couple days ago, and now we've got another one called Hinta Sokoban, so I don't know what the other one was really called. This is basically, Sokoban, as best as I can tell, is a box sliding puzzle game. And they've just put some very small amounts of possibly stolen art assets in it. No, the other game from this developer is called Hinta Puzzle. How much do they want for this garbage? That's, let's see, is it even in Japanese? It says it's in every language. It's 40% off for 59 cents. You know what you're doing if you're buying this game, and you shouldn't buy this game. Regardless, you're not supporting the real video game industry that would give you a quality product. You're just supporting people that are being ridiculous. And what is this really? It has 100 Steam achievements, and the achievements are all letters. Which, yeah, it's just an achievement hunter game. Which, frankly, if somebody says achievement hunter in the reviews and the comments and the description anywhere on that game, it needs to be flagged and looked at as far as a Steam system. Like, achievement hunter games should not be allowed. They just shouldn't. They're ruining Steam and changing what makes a game and a good game in a very bad way.
I fight. Engaging TC-130 mental dislocation.
I don't have enough room.
Moving on, Gamer Sutra has an article. It says, watch the Narcosis devs explain how they sold their unusual game, NARCOSIS. This is probably an article written by the Narcosis devs. These Gamer Sutra things. I guess maybe, if it weren't for the fact that they are giving me some random weird articles that are slightly different, I could see abandoning Game of Sutra's articles in general, but just because they quite often are just self-promotion ads. It's just not a good website for news. It's more a website for self-promotion.
Not a valid target.
I don't know if it's supposed to be something along the lines of a NeoGAF replacement, but that would be reset error. Let's see. Kill that one. That. Do that. The one thing here is, I guess I do kind of want to see this game Narcosis and just see what it is. See if it's on Steam. So let's search that. That's really what that just boils down to. Is somebody's talking about a game. Narcosis is on Steam. It's 80% positive of 305 user reviews. It came out March 28th, 2017. Says it's an adventure indie horror atmosphere mystery game, and it seems like it's a slightly underwater experience. Yeah. So instead of reading the Gama Sutra article, none of the translation here in the text is saying anything important.
The light protects me.
Let's see. That's 4 damage.
Victory or death.
Yeah, I'll just wishlist Narcosis and keep an eye on that. Moving on, another Gamma Sutra article. GDC 2019 organizers are looking for smart business and marketing talks. I think GDC might be the same company that owns Gamma Sutra, but either way. So GDC is going to happen. They're looking to cover specific topics, and I guess this would be slightly interesting. As far as what topics do they want discussed. Key platforms of today and tomorrow. Platform analysis and case studies including real data. Development and marketing budget planning for new platforms. Marketing and user acquisitions. Financing. company values, streaming, esports. So those are some pretty generic things. It doesn't seem like, at least in the description of what they're looking for people to talk about, that there's any real bias there. Except for maybe a slight bias towards streaming and esports being a big thing. If there was a talk specifically looking for games as services, that would be a indicator to me that there's kind of an agenda there, but mostly this seems pretty obvious stuff.
The pleasure is mine.
Alright, Gematsu, the other video game website that I follow that starts with G, has an article. Storm Boy, the game, has been announced for the PS4, Xbox One, Switch, PC, and smartphones. It's an adaptation of a 1964 children's book. It's going to come out in late 2018. And when you have a game that is going to be on so many different platforms, you know immediately that the graphics won't probably look that good. Now the trailer shows a very like hand-painted, hand-animated style where the characters are not really moving, they're just sliding across the background. But I wouldn't be surprised if it's a full 3D render of the characters in a low polygon 3D render at the beginning in the actual gameplay. It's from a company called Blowfish Studios.
Watch your back. I always do.
I imagine this isn't gonna be much of a game. Like, it's probably gonna fall closer to an interactive story, and we haven't seen that in the video game industry much yet, where interactive stories, like a Dr. Seuss story type story for little kids, start selling themselves as games. Like that hasn't happened, and I think the mainstream video game players would kind of bristle at that suggestion too. If we're gonna say just because a story happens and you can click on a picture and it makes the character make a sound, while it is interactive media, I think games have to focus on interaction as its main topic, with story potentially being a close second to that. But even things like Telltale games are starting to get closer to an interactive story than a video game than they probably should. We're gonna certainly, as a society, have to decide what we consider a video game and what we don't, and we're constantly having to reevaluate those decisions. Now I could have probably done this instead. I'm supposed to be friending people, by the way.
Folks, who goes there?
We've got a game on Steam called Future Jam. Live out your DJ fantasies in Future Jam, a VR music rhythm game set in the cyberpunk future of 2049. I don't know, I see a lot of flashing neon shapes and lights. This could be a good game, it could be that it's just being depicted very oddly. We haven't been seeing a lot of VR games lately. It seems like as soon as we stopped seeing VR games, we started seeing sex games instead. I don't know why there would be any kind of connection there.
Here we go.
But that definitely does seem like the way it's been going.
The light protects me.
Future Jam is $9.99 because it's VR. I'll probably never play it. I really can't even make a good review of it just from the visuals of it. It's too hard to tell. I don't know if you're standing in front of some kind of futuristic visualizer to play music, or it seems like maybe that's what you're doing. Or maybe you're... No, it seems like what you're doing is you're playing drums on like a music track, and there's a lot of drums, more than a drum set drums. So it seems like it would be harder than even a professional drummer might have to do. 6 drums in a circle, or 6 buttons you're pressing, basically.
Your magic shall not save you.
I fight. Here we go.
Moving on, PC Gamer has an article. Good review scores count as much as a game that sells millions, says Capcom. We prefer a game that got a 9 and sold less than a 6 and sold more. Interesting theory for Capcom to say. It certainly doesn't seem like they've been following that, so this must be a new stance. Because Capcom games in the past have been rather total garbage. There's been a lot of spin-off Resident Evil games that were not good and not getting good reviews. Here in the article it says, and while if we compare RE7 versus RE6, the absolute numbers are not the same in terms of profitability. It's completely fine. It's also ticked all of our boxes internally. It was really well received. Well, good. So Resident Evil 8 theoretically, hopefully, will be good. And all the bad parts and all the bad DLC for Resident Evil 7 were just holdover experiments, and we won't see things like that at the beginning of at the end of RE8. Let's see. GameIndustry.biz, I guess, or is it just GI.biz is what it says. Seems like they shortened the website's name inappropriately in this article by PC Gamer. It says, reports that RE7 was considered a vast improvement over its main series forerunner. The latter, Resident Evil 6, accrued 7.1 million sales against the current one having 5.1 million sales. Yeah, and I don't think, though, anybody is of such a delusional nature that they think Resident Evil 6, if it had been released, if a game like Resident Evil 6 is released as Resident Evil 8, that would actually succeed and work. Here we go. Challenge a friend. I swear if this guy turns me down, I'm gonna defriend him immediately since I just friended him. There we go. There's another quote here. We are less focused on day one sales these days too. We're looking more to the long term. And in the case RE7 is performing amazingly. Even now, after almost 2 years, it is still the VR flagship title. That helps keep the game selling well. Yeah. And I'm certainly one of the people that haven't played RE7 or bought it yet. So, yeah, that's another game. While I would love to play Darksiders 3, I'd also love to play Resident Evil 7. There's probably a good amount of people that are just waiting waiting to see when that game goes on sale and has a like full all DLC version merged together.
Is someone injured?
Let's see. Next, we have a game on Steam called Retroids. R-E-T-R-O-I-D-S. That sounds like an unfortunate name to me. It's a indie casual action game. This game 3 armor.
Job done.
It seems like what you do is you fly around arcade style and shoot asteroids in the 3D environment and collect power-ups. So it's like the old game Asteroids, but it's been actually improved and looks better. Which, that's not a bad idea. It's just inherently, I feel like arcade style games are of an old genre, and people just don't want to play score chasing arcade style games, and this is just gonna get boring flying around shooting asteroids and nothing else. I see no enemies, I see just different colored asteroids, which makes it definitely feel like this is a game that was done on a budget as far as effort. Let's see. Take that. Yeah, there's really doesn't feel like there's any variety for Retroids. It's $4.99 in early access. The beginning of a good idea, certainly the beginning of a good idea for a game, but you gotta do more with it than that. You have to have some enemies attack at some time. You have to have really different types of asteroids or types of things you're shooting. Something more needs to happen. Let's see. There we go. Next, we have a Your Gamer article. 14 years later, Football Manager cover star Manager Man has retired. Update: Manager Man is deciding what his next career move will be. So, Manager Man, I guess, is the picture of an actor, a real-life actor that was on the title of the Football Manager series. It's just a guy in a suit, so I'm surprised they couldn't just replace him with another guy in a suit. Although, you know what, just stick with it. I guess there is no Madden equivalent for the Football Manager, football being meaning soccer in this instance.
Beetleberries, my favorite.
Let's play this. And let's see. I can upgrade this to doing more damage. Kill that.
Time waits for no one.
Let's keep on playing. Not really a story that matters to me, as I'm not big into soccer, and I probably would never play Football Manager, but I imagine the soccer fans are big into it. Next, we have a game on Steam called Galactus, Galactis, and it's a vertical shooter bullet hell game. Not particularly widescreen. You kind of can't have a widescreen game when you're making a vertical shooter. Graphics look old style, but maybe with a small bit of polish on them. It's just certainly not anything that interests me. It looks like this game might have some different mechanics, but the menus are pretty badly drawn. It's 99 cents. I don't think you'd get completely ripped off playing Galactus, but also you'd have to be a big fan of shooter games. Tons of them come out. Most of them are bad. Let's see. Gain armor. And give your minions +1 attack. And deal 6 damage. And just attack everything.
Try one.
Gematsu has an article, My Hero One's Justice. My Hero One's Justice for 1 EX Plus Ultra has some screenshots. So this is a new screenshots for a game that's coming out from Bandai Namco for the My Hero Academia, My Hero series. I don't know if it's My Hero Academia or not. Let's see. Moving on. Gematsu has an article, the Bravely series Twitter account teases a new title. The official Twitter account of the Bravely series, which was a JRPG series, if I recall correctly. Let's see. They're probably boasted by the Octopath Traveler is the speculation in this article that as a series has been selling extremely well, and because of that there's more interest or renewed interest in selling JRPGs. They tweeted out like a picture. The last Bravely series game was Bravely Second End Layer for the 3DS, which launched in 2015, so if you're taking 4 or 5 years to make a game, this would be right about the time to announce something anyways. I would have to double check to see how many Bravely series games are actually on PC, if any. Let's see, Your Gamer has a review of WarioWare Gold, and they've put this symbol, Your Gamer Recommended, which I've never seen before. Your Gamer.
Shall I strike?
Does that really say 52? I think that really says 52. That is crazy. I'm gonna have to get a silence or a steal from this guy. He's got 52 health. Since I'm never gonna play any Nintendo games, WarioWare or otherwise, I don't think it matters to me whether WarioWare is good or not. I didn't see a story, and this is one of those stories that won't get reported on too much, is some WarioWare game had been modded, or maybe you can just make your own mini WarioWare games in WarioWare Gold or some other WarioWare game. And so somebody spent what I assume is way too much time making sex mini games in WarioWare for who knows what reason. But that was out there. I saw the footage. Somebody did that. Right. So if I play this and grab this, that would be crazy good. So let's get rid of this first to lower our odds. Got the wrong thing. Let's see. We can play this. This guy is at 100 health. PC Gamer has an article, post-launch updates for We Happy Few detailed, including DLC. There's a free sandbox mode coming. Also, let's see. There's gonna be 3 DLC things. Roger and James, and They Came From Below, Lightbearer, Hearthrob, and We All Fall Down. As well as the season pass, We Happy Few will receive free updates adding a sandbox mode. It should be launching on August 10th. It's kind of nice. I feel like, again, Gearbox is doing a pretty bad job of advertising their own thing that they're publishing. I'm getting this from other sources. Okay, I really can't do anything. The more I hear getting added to We Happy Few, the closer I get back to wanting to actually play that game. But the truth is, until I hear some real reviews on the story that I can trust, I'm not sure that there's anything that could ever be said about We Happy Few that will get me away from the fear that it's just going to have too much survival mechanics in it. Right.
My will is not my own.
Still haven't figured out which cards give me excess mana and which cards don't. Well, let's add the cards. Gamma Sutra has a blog. What men and women consider hardcore gaming are not the same. I would argue that what two people in general consider hardcore gaming, when you get down to list it, is probably not going to be the same. Let's see. Oh, I'm seeing some charts. Let's see. And of course, my joke here that I would say is, what is hardcore gaming? Hardcore gaming is when you show the genitals uncensored. Just like it's same definition of hardcore porn. Of course, that's not true. That's just, that would be my silly response to that, because it really is just a stupid question. It's just gatekeeping. That's all it is. 6 armor and 6 armor.
Wow.
And then in return, let's see. According to this image, hardcore gaming is, i.e., you have high-end equipment and play seriously or competitively. Where core, mid-core gaming, you play regular video games and are not super serious or competitive. So, I guess I'm not a hardcore gamer by that description. Let's see, it says casual gamer is you dabble in games but in short sessions or infrequently. Like, the whole thing, it really is just gatekeeping. What is the difference? Like, whatever the average audience is, whatever people want in their gaming experience, you want to address the desires of the largest amount of people you can. Like, I don't know if I ever really thought of myself as a hardcore gamer. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. I think a lot of people probably would call me a hardcore gamer. I game professionally. This is my job. So I'm a professional gamer. But maybe I'm not a hardcore gamer. I'm not an obsessive gamer who only plays like Overwatch or only plays Call of Duty. I'm certainly not one of them. One of those people. I'm not a gamer bro who only plays games that the quote-unquote bros would play. On the other hand, I guess I'm not a extreme liberal person who only plays games like Butterfly Soup that are liberal in the agenda, like an Anita Sarkeesian style gamer. Let's see. Hardcore gamers are looking for fast-paced, skill-based challenges. Not particularly me, so I guess I'm not a hardcore gamer. You know, I recently had this thought that people called me a nerd and geek back in the days when being a nerd and a geek was not fashionable. It was basically an insult. And I kind of let people call me that, and I kind of took that upon myself. But honestly,
Thank you.
as a human being with many varied interests and thoughts and an actual personality, and not just, oh, so that was his strategy. That took him a long time to get to that point. Like, I'm not a nerd. I'm not a geek. That's not what I am. I'm a human being who has all kinds of varied interests and desires. So, yeah, I guess I'm also not a hardcore gamer. I don't think I would let people call me a mid-core gamer either. I'll take gamer. I do play games, but I think really somebody doing a whole speech about this, and that's the weird thing, is this is a blog written by somebody who's either in the industry, wants to be in the industry, or something. Let's see. Let's see who wrote this article, because it's honestly not what you would even want to break it down if you're trying to sell to certain audiences. Quantic Foundry. This is by Nick Yee, expert blogger featured post. Nick Yee is the co-founder and analytics lead of Quantic Foundry, a game analytics consulting practice. So he's got a vested interest in this, and he's not even doing a good job, I think. Because I don't think you ask people, are you a hardcore gamer or not? What you ask people is, how many hours a day do you think you play a game? And how many hours a game do you think you play any game? How old are you? Are you male or female? These are the types of things that you would use to then have a database of analytics to say, this is your target market, this is who you want to advertise to. So we don't have the case of people trying to sell something like The Binding of Isaac, which is a grotesque, basically anti-Christian in its themes a little bit game. You don't want that to being sold to hugely conservative Christian people that don't play games and are 65 years old. Like, you just don't want to waste your money on that advertisement or cause controversy on that. However, there's no casual gamer badge or hardcore gamer badge. It's just not a category that needs to exist. Honestly, I would probably classify myself as a hardcore gamer because I play a lot of games and I play them to the end, and I don't give up usually. I don't rage quit very often. So I would say that's pretty hardcore. Whereas I would say an average gamer probably 50% of the time gets bored with the single player of most stories and doesn't finish them. We know that a large amount of people don't finish the single player stories. I'd say a casual gamer plays a game for about a month and then moves on, and they're perfectly happy with that. And that's an average gamer. And I'd say a casual gamer is somebody who barely plays an hour of one game a day on their phone, usually. That they have not invested anything whatsoever in a separate console to play any games, whether it's a PC or an actual console. These are how I would classify those groups. But again, why? Why bother to? Anyways, it's been an hour, so it's time to break up again. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below in the description box. And if you want to support me even further, I'm asking people to friend me on Steam and gift me a game or a gift card. Or send me a Steam code through Twitter direct message. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening. Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back with another recording of Hearthstone. Today is Monday, August 6th. We started a little late and I'm struggling to get victories on the European account, so I've got one done and I'm probably going to have to do some things off screen, so I'm going to switch over to the Americas account and let's start playing there. Now, one of the viewers wanted to play me on 1 versus 1, and that was quite a while ago, so apologies for that. If he's still online and he plays on the Americas account, I will still certainly accept friend requests and play him. I think we've got daily quests here that synchronize with some of that. Yeah, that works pretty well. Let's see. So first time I think I've seen somebody play Destiny now that they've integrated that. I can't re-roll any of these, so I must have re-rolled these later last night. So 2 victories of any kind, destroy 25 minions. I can do that pretty easily, and then doing the Spelunky stuff. The Spelunker quest is a little bit of extra challenge. So we'll stick with Spiteful Priest and just play and try to get victories. I'm also kind of in a weird position because there wasn't a ton of news, so I see the Humble Bundle store at the far right of my page, so if I just go at the regular speed I'll probably be done, maybe even a little bit earlier, and I'm not sure I have any special conversation to have otherwise. Yeah. So Gematsu has an article, Bunny Must Die Chelsea and the 7 Devils has a PS4 physical edition now available in Japan. This is kind of weird because it seems like this game came out and I missed it for the PS4 digitally. I don't know what kind of game it is, but apparently it's getting like a physical edition. It says it's an improved version of the PC dungeon crawling action game Bunny Must Die Chelsea and the 7 Devils. So let's actually play. See if I can find this on Steam and see if there's a review. Yep. It's mixed reviews, 68% of 235 user reviews. It came out September 26, 2013. And it's supposedly a Metroidvania platforming game.
I wonder.
I think maybe that's why I missed this game, is it's just incredibly old getting a new release on the PS4. It's selling itself as having retro graphics, but it's really, I mean, what does that mean these days?
Right away.
It's just... Yeah, it's from a no-name publisher, it's from a no-name developer. Let's see. June 27th. There's a recent update that says Bunny Must Die project in development with Way Forward is officially cancelled. So apparently they were trying to make a continuation of the game, and it was cancelled June 27th. And then June 27th it also says it's now fully Windows 10 compatible, which
Right away.
so they're trying to sell this like it was a underground hit of a game, but I don't think it really is. It's like the all-time peak of players were 52 players according to Steam charts, and today's peak was 2 players. It says the average playtime is about 6 hours. The first recommended review says this game is a rage game, no thanks. 3 damage to everybody else. Let's go and kill this for no reason. Here's a review that says it's less offensive than Metroid Other M.
This guy's toast.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's nothing more that says, like, if their Way Forward canceled it or what. Yeah, so that was an interesting, I guess, blast from the past. You certainly don't get a lot of that where there's a story that talks about older games. So games can fall through the cracks and then they're basically never remembered. And that's part of the problem with the video game industry just being constantly flooded with new games. And it's one of the rare reasons why remakes and remasters are much more acceptable in the video game industry than, say, the movie industry or the book industry. It's just because of the vast majority of good quality content that's always coming out. Rock Paper Shotgun has an article. Twitch brings back charity campaign, hashtag create for the kids. It says Twitch are once again partnering with crowdfunding website Tiltify for their 3rd annual hashtag create for the kids. I've never heard of Tiltify. That's a dangerous word to say out loud, in case you mispronounce it. I'm supposed to be killing enemies, by the way, and I don't think I'm doing too many of that. It's going to the U.S. branch of Save the Children, a charity focused on kids' welfare worldwide. Last year, the campaign raised over $56,000, which is way less than Awesome Games Done Click's $6 million. See, it's an embarrassingly small amount. And I don't know if that really is any real indication of just how little money is actually around Twitch. That Twitch pretends like it's a competitor to YouTube, but while I know Ninja is probably making a lot of money streaming on Twitch, I think a much higher percentage of people streaming on Twitch are making no money or little money compared to the people streaming on YouTube or putting up videos on YouTube. So I could be totally wrong about that, but it seems like that's the case. Either way, this charity, like, they've really got to get up to a $5 or $6 million mark. Otherwise, they're just embarrassing themselves. Money is money, of course. Alright, we've got a game on Steam called Math Fun, Play and Learn. I have no idea how you would ever vet a kid's game that's educational on Steam. I think this is one of those rare cases where it might be worth it to have a agency that their only job is recruit a dragon or summon a dragon. Let's see what this does.
Snuggles, fetch.
Revenge.
So Math Fun, it doesn't look crazy. It doesn't look bad. So I guess if reviews were to be trusted, it's $4.99. It's English only. It doesn't look like it's a troll game, but it may still not be worth it. It's from, however, a developer, now that I'm looking at the other things that they've made, that has pretty much tried this and several other things, like Horse Racing 2016, which is their only game that's negatively reviewed. They've tried this before and nobody's reviewed their games. Yeah, I think there needs some vetting that needs to be done, because teachers just don't have time to
Revenge.
they don't have time to play the games from beginning to end and make sure that 100% of the time there's there is a nothing offensive and nothing ineducational, de-educational, I guess you would say. Yeah, we made good progress there. We made jump back to the European account. Let's see. This is weird. Like, all today, every single PC Gamer article has not talked about any game at all. It's almost like their editor-in-chief just woke up in a bad mood and they said, this week we're not going to write anything about video games. And this doesn't feel like so much that they're pushing some other narrative. It's just kind of like they're not doing anything, like they took the week off. However, this PC article certainly has a narrative coming from PC Gamer. Sexuality and gender in science fiction games 2 days ago. Curators behind games like Fallout New Vegas, Red Strings Club, Sub-Serial Network, and Extreme Meat Punks Forever talk about how they've explored mature themes in their works. Except with the exception of Fallout New Vegas, none of those games have been impactful at all. Like, I've heard of the Red Strings Club, probably from PC Gamer. I've never heard of Sub-Serial Network or Extreme Meat Punks Forever. Never even heard about them. So that, just from the word go, is weird. Like, you've grouped together some of the creators behind Fallout New Vegas, probably the best Fallout game, with people who are nowhere on their level. Let's see. The first bit of this article says, in 1992, Microprose released Rex Nebular and the Cosmic Gender Bender. Which, okay. And then the second paragraph says, in 2007, Mass Effect, the Asari are a monogender alien species, which, alright.
Right away.
So you found 2 incidences of gender being mentioned in, let's see, how many years? Let's see, 8 plus 7, 15 years. You found 2 examples in 15 years.
Right away.
It's hardly bolstering the narrative that gender is always an issue. And see, this really what this is, I imagine, is they wanted an article of Fallout New Vegas in the title so that they could talk about these other games that I've never heard of.
For the crusade!
That's kind of all this is. I'm streaming through this article, I'm looking at the pictures, and I don't want to read every word of it because not only am I going to be irritated by what PC Gamer is saying, I'm going to also be irritated that they've wasted my time talking about this for kind of no reason.
Right away.
Do my bidding!
There must have been games that came out. Dead Cells came out this week. They could have done 2 or 3 articles about that. Could have been talking about games that came out last week. Yeah, I'm kind of scrolling here. Let's just go back to the title and see, ignoring the article as it seems like it's a pointless article. Sex and gender in science fiction games. Sexuality and gender in science fiction games. Which, okay, sexuality is a different thing than sex. There's definitely a lack of mentioning of a lot of games, certainly. Like Mass Effect and Dragon Age, definitely there. There is a probably easy comparison you can make of games where you can pick characters and pick the genders versus games where you can pick characters but you can't pick the gender.
Your magic shall not
Because there's a lot of that. When you talk sexuality or anything sex, and you mention 0 Japanese games in the context of a video game conversation, you have purposely blinded yourself because, yeah, there's gender bending going on a lot in Japanese stories, and there's lots of sexuality certainly in Japanese stories, but it's always, or almost always, pro-sex sexuality, which is not what Western SJWs want to talk about or even admit exists. They are very anti-sex in a weird way. Like, the idea that a woman would want to, like a woman like Bayonetta would want to dress sexy is not her choice as a character as she's written. It's still her being written via the male gaze, which is just ignoring all the bisexual and lesbian people who also might think Bayonetta is a sexually attractive character. So yeah, as far as genders, there's a lot of characters that don't have genders. Pokemon is an interesting example where some Pokemon have genders. I don't think, at least originally, I don't think even now, though, that all characters have genders. I think there's still a lot of different Pokemon that only come in monogenders. I don't think there's a male or female Ditto out there, but maybe they've added that, so that could be a case. That would be a great example of, like, here's an old game that didn't have the RAM or time to program genders in every single characters, but they did it on some of them, and then they did it further. I can certainly give a long list in which gender plays no role whatsoever. It's just a character was picked. I can also, for example, point out things like Enslaved Odyssey of the West, I think was the name of the game, where you're playing as the Monkey King, or a character like the Monkey King, or echoing the Monkey King, and there's really no reason to be playing as him when the female character was a much cooler character, and she should have just been the person you were playing as. And there's some cases there that you can certainly make the argument that a lot of the Mario games fail even now to let you play as Princess Peach or Princess Toadstool. You could easily have made Odyssey switch around on it, and Mario could have gotten kidnapped on accident instead of Princess Peach, and then Princess Peach played throughout the whole game with just the exact same abilities in Odyssey. Would have been really easy to do that, and yet that didn't happen.
Shall not fall.
Moving on though, because I'm really just ranting about a better article I could write versus somebody else. Also though, I don't think I would write that article because I don't think it adds anything to a conversation. Like, that's something that if you were going to look at it and do it responsibly, you'd want to do a lot of research, and you'd almost want to make an entire paper out of it, not just a short couple of paragraphs conversation. You would want to do a conversation like that. Just as do your research, have lots of examples, point out where you think it could be improved, point out where you think things are doing good. You would want to involve games from as many different countries and cultures as possible, and you would want to try to go in it without any bias, if at all possible. I'm not sure that even I can come from an unbiased position, because frankly the mainstream video game media and in-game designers, a lot of them are so annoying SJWs at them. Even I personally have knee-jerk desires to just ignore them and discredit them and argue with them. And arguing on the internet doesn't really accomplish much. So moving on, Gematsu has an article, Windjammers is coming to the Switch in 2018. Windjammers is an incredibly overhyped game. Really, really overhyped. And that is definitely from Giant Bomb and other sites just being super into it. It's not really even that good of a game, and there is clones of it already on Steam. I don't begrudge it coming to the Switch though. Switch certainly can have as many games on it as Nintendo will allow. It's just probably not super interesting. So I had earlier already talked about one character, two characters being added to Fighting EX Lair. There's another Gematsu article talking about Fighting EX Lair DLC character Terry Bogard, and Arya and Sharon have been teased, and some other characters. So the thing that's cool about Terry Bogard talking about sexuality and gender, is he's like the main character from the Fatal Fury series, and they put him in the Fatal Femme Fatale game. What is that one called? I'm gonna have to see if I can find it. They gender bent him and made a female version of him. Basically took his brain and put it into a female form to put him into an all-female fighting game. And nobody's really batting an eye about that at all. And that's rather cool. We don't have that happen a ton of times, but it certainly would make sense for fighting games in particular. It's like, hey, do you want to play a female version of E Honda? Sure, why not? Let's let that happen. I need to fight 3 dungeon run bosses in solo adventure now. So dungeon run, here we go. And we were already here. Let's see, what are we're playing a hunter deck. Started the game 3 random secrets. Enemy minions cost 1 more, I'll take that. And what do we want here? I'll take small beasts and play. Evo is clearly coming up because all the fighting games are teasing things. So Dead or Alive is teasing Hitomi and Li Feng in just silhouetted form. Dead or Alive 6 is due out for the PS4, Xbox One, and PC early 2019. That's a Gametsu article. PC Gamer has an article from 2 days ago. You can get the multiplayer brawler nightclub for free. All you have to do is sign up for their mailing list. I'm not sure it's really worth signing up for a mailing list and giving somebody your email or even a fake email to play a multiplayer platformer 2 to 4 player game that's basically a Smash Brothers clone. Like, it's not going to be one of the Smash Brothers clones that even has a slight chance, in my opinion, to succeed. These are tiny 8-bit pixel characters in knights' armors of different clothing, different colors, fighting. They seem to have small amounts of customization, but they're so small I doubt you'd even really notice. Platforms don't look particularly interesting, and they look like they have too many places where you can land. I'm not even sure you can get knocked off the side of the screen at all. This might just be a straight up get their health down to 0 and you win. There's swords and spears, but Night Club, KNIGHT, Space Club, doesn't strike me as a worthy game to even own.
Embrace the twilight.
Let's see, Gametsu has an article, 7 minutes of Monkey King Hero is back. Monkey King : Hero is back. China Joy 2018 gameplay. This is a almost certainly Chinese game. It's coming out for the PS4 in China in 2019 and other regions to follow. They are so obsessed with the Monkey King and that story. It's really down to the point where China kind of doesn't feel like it has much of a culture when you take out the major things. That's probably not true. It's probably just the way it feels like it gets translated. And some of that may very well have to do with the strict censorship laws in China, or the fact that China really is this giant country where like one city's or one county's or one area's culture probably isn't as connected. Different dialects and such are probably pretty difficult to understand even between people speaking the same Chinese. As far as this game goes, it looks fine. It looks like you're wandering around a decently designed area, and you don't seem to be running into too many enemies. And so if this is supposed to be like an MMO or something, it's gonna be pretty boring. If it's a single player and there's just one time you're gonna experience this and that's it, that'd be a little bit better.
To my side.
Let's go on the win. Now while I'm playing the dungeon runs, I have to remember that the rope won't come out, so if I get too busy, I will actually sit on the screen and not move forward. I kind of love to have this one, so I'm gonna take it. Seems like the Monkey King can grab explosive rocks and throw them, and he's getting two things, whether it's health and magic or something else, maybe a currency.
Your magic finds no purchase here.
He's fighting a troll. This game doesn't look terrible, certainly. If it comes out to the West, I'll pay more attention to it. Techraptor, very much limiting themselves to one article every few days, has an article. 20 years on, some of Konami's Beatmania arcade patents have expired. Apparently some of the Beatmania button layout patents or something have expired. What does that really mean? Probably not much. I don't think you might see a new Beatmania style controller being sold by some controller, third-party controller developer, but I think that's kind of it. There are, as I'm scrolling down here, it says Konami sued Roxor over In the Groove in 2005 and Pentavision over the DJ Max series in 2008. And Konami won the rights to In the Groove and all production ceased. Konami's lawsuit argued against Pentamax, however, argued that DJ Max copied elements of Beatmania, despite the fact that DJ Max wasn't available in arcades at the time. So, I don't think that one succeeded. Oh, this is the one he's going to put a counter spell every time I try to cast a spell, so I shouldn't have done that. Let's see, Pentavision settled out of court, transferring the Japanese sale of the DJ Max series to Konami. Additionally, Pentamax now has to pay a fee to Konami for every DJ Max game released. So, yeah, apparently Konami has had a death grip on DJ style of games, and I guess that would explain why there's a little bit fewer of them than you might think. Let's just keep on attacking and end the turn. Here's an interesting game on Steam. It's called Kink Shamed. One word, KinkshAmed. Follow Jackson and Morgan as they meet up with an old friends and new connections and demonstrate the new modeling venture. Their new modeling venture is a laugh riot. It's tagged as sexual content, nudity, indie casual RPG. It's a RPG Maker game. There is this comic book series called Sunstone that follows people who are in the bondage, sadomasochism, in almost a fashionable, fictitious BDSM world, and it covers that probably a lot better than this game and its MS Paint graphics. So yeah, this is ridiculous just for the format you're choosing and the level of animation you can draw, which is not much. Let's see. If I do this and then do this,
My magic
I wonder if
is
counterspell
stronger
will work then.
Oh dear.
Like,
than yours. Job's done.
one of the elements in these King Shamed screenshots is a lot of characters getting their feet tied in the stocks in a public area, and it really does just look like it's a public area. That's not like a super popular fetish. It seems like the fighting in this RPG is actually sleeping with people, but the graphics are so bad. It's not going to be very informative as far as kinks. B, it's not going to be very well animated. If your opinion is to just try and get your rocks off on it, you're not going to succeed there. As a game, it fails because it's an RPG Maker game. It's 25% off for $1.49. If this same story was just written as a comic book, like Sunstone, which is more what I'd recommend for that, you would do much better. And let's see if this developer has made anything else. Apparently not. So forever your company is going to be aligned with King Shame, the bad-looking, pandering game. Take that one. And I think I'll just take more of the small creatures over here. Yeah, King Shamed also seems to really only know about tickling people, tying them up with rope. It doesn't seem to even be super informed into the variety of BDSM. And when you go into fiction, you can certainly create your own stuff and invent new things that don't even exist. And there doesn't seem to be any of that. Next game we have on Steam is called EW-WE, so East-West-West-East? Well, according to the thumbnail, it's like 3W-WE, so they're supposed to be reflections. And it says, EWE, E-W-W-E, is just a dream, a bad dream, which you find yourself in captivity in your own room, a bad dream which seems more like a reality sometimes. This is just tagged as an indie game with no other tags. Surely the developers of games can tag their own games with something more than that. Like, it seems like it's an escape the room game. It also seems like it is a almost completely black, dark screenshot syndrome game, grayscale for everything. Let's see, what does this one do? Transform a minion into a random one that costs one more. Okay. Let's play this. Yeah, I see nothing that would make me want to pay the 99 cents for EWE. It's in English and Russian. Yep. It's really undeniable that there is at least one group of Russian-speaking people who are making low-quality games on Steam. At least one group. They could be going under a bunch of different accounts, but But yeah, I see far too many games that are in English and Russian for that to be not the case. I also see far too many games that are in English and Chinese or Chinese only that are low quality games, and far too many games that are in English and Portuguese Brazil that are low quality games. I imagine all of those groups combined though probably are not as bad as the English only low quality games. So there's work that seems like it needs to be done all around. Let's see. Let's kill this. Do this. And do that. And then that. And then return. Rock Paper Shotgun has an article. Coffee Talk demo promises gorgeous laid-back storytelling. And I'm seeing a picture of a demon at a bar smoking and a green-haired girl at a bar. And it seems like it's a better looking version of Valhalla where you're mixing up drinks and getting stories. It's an itch.io game though, so certainly it's not something that I would play because it's not on Steam, and it's pay what you want so you can get it for free. There's no minimum there. If that's how you, if that's how much you think it's worth. Let's see.
Oh dear.
Why are these guys, why do they have +1? Oh, that's why. Okay. And yeah, this is a rock paper shotgun specifically mentioning Valhalla, which was a game that was overhyped in a way to overhype this game. I would say this game looks like it's better animated, but it's probably really, really short. Gematsu has an article, Kamen Rider Climax Scramble coming to Asia in English. So I don't know if that is a just immediate admission that it's not coming to the West. I think probably if you see something like that, you can probably take it to mean that. Let's see, do I have enough to win? Yes, I do.
There is a number far below.
I guess there's nothing really else to take from that. Let's see, PC Gamer has an article. Iron Maiden's hero has come a long way since the 1990s. I don't know if that's to mean visually or in some other ways. I think it means visually, and it's showing off like some screenshots. Of course, Iron Maiden, the game has. I think this is the first game with Iron Maiden, and that it was from a comic book, or maybe there was a previous Iron Maiden. Let's see. She is the character from the game Bombshell. I guess. The evolving character design of Shelley Bombshell Harrison is her name, and she's been conceived as the star of her own game back in 1997, inspired by Barbara Wilde, both the Pamela Anderson movie and the comic book published by Dark Horse. When the game's creators left 3D Realms, the decision was made to have Bombshell instead debut in Duke Nukem Forever. and that then get her own spin-off. Oh, so she is actually a Duke Nukem Forever character. Well, was she actually in Duke Nukem Forever, the released version? Because this is kind of an interesting timeline of she was a character design. It wasn't until 2015 that Bombshell was revived for its own game. Those early concepts had her essentially as a sexed-up female version of Duke Nukem, which I don't think, gender aside, I don't think Duke Nukem as a character works either way. All 5 of those cards get turned into dust. It's going to be really hard for my main account to get a complete classic collection. I probably should just use dust for that. Let's switch back to the European account, since we had some more work to do it. Let's see. So, yeah, apparently Iron Maiden as a character is...
The tavern's always
But really this is just an animator drew a character. They liked the animation of that character, and then they tried to get her in the game for years and years and didn't succeed, and so they finally got her into a game. Does that really mean she's the same character? No, they're giving her different stories, different backgrounds. They very possibly are going to give her a different name even. Or even if she does have the same name, it's at best a insider reference. You know what, I probably should just play on casual instead of ranked. Well, as much as I rag on PC Gamer, I will say that this article at least has some pictures that are interesting and an interesting story to tell. So I would recommend checking out this article if you're interested. Iron Maiden's hero has come a long way since the 1990s. Of course, also it's just a hype-building advertisement for the game Iron Maiden, which, you know, I'm willing to get around to playing it eventually, but I'm not super hyped on it. PC Gamer also has an article. Alter Army, the game made by 2 16-year-olds, has a new trailer and release date. I think I may have seen this already. It was out on Steam. Yeah, I talked about this game already. It's available on Steam August 6th.
Time waits for no one.
Yeah. Play this in the trailer. Yeah, I guess there's nothing more to say there. I did want to say though, you should be careful about any time they say a game is made by 16-year-olds or made by an 8-year-old, even made by a couple of 18-year-olds. Like, there's always somebody giving help there. It's either a very outstanding teacher of some sort, or it's a parent who works in the industry, or a parent who happens to have connections with the news media. There's something more to this, and it is definitely advertising, not truth. Yeah, so honestly, if 2 16s alone with no help whatsoever went and made a game, it wouldn't be that good. In the same way that the prototype for the game that eventually became Portal wouldn't have been that good of a game had Valve not stepped in and given them a lot of support and a lot of help.
You are the Shadow's puppet.
PC Gamer has another article, The Uncertain Future of Games Like Deus Ex and Dishonored. Immersive sims have been held up as the pinnacle of PC gaming design, but falling sales may mean the genre is endangered. I would argue that for the Deus Ex series and Dishonored series in particular, that is the same parent company that is running both of them. So there's there's other reasons, particularly that those specific series were not given the amount of advertisement and support that they should have been given. I don't think that Deus Ex is really going to go anywhere. Just because Mankind Divided wasn't as good as Human Revolution, I think you just had to look at the entire Deus Ex series and realize that, yeah, that series has never been as much of a big time seller as they wanted it to be. I think Dishonored is doing fine, and I really think the PC Gamer in this article is probably prophesizing some doom and gloom. I think we're kind of more in a world where more and more the video game playing audience is getting bigger and bigger, and we're not really going to tolerate holes in the market. If there is no new Deus Ex game made, somebody out there, some AA, some single A developer is going to make something like Deus Ex and sell. And you may notice that Prey is not getting mentioned in this article, where Prey is also the same company that well, let's see, like, oh wait, no, Deus Ex is Square Enix and Dishonored is Bethesda. Yeah, I'm confused there. Get my facts straight every once in a while, that'd be helpful. Yeah, but Prey is another Bethesda game that is basically the same thing, and they're still supporting that. Yeah, but yeah, like I was saying, if none of the mainstream games like Deus Ex or Dishonored are made, all these sort of, I don't even know what you describe them as. They're kind of uniquely different RPG thief-like games. If there's a gap in the market, somebody else is going to fill that. Speaking of a gap in the market, there seems to be one at this rate for Bomberman games, because there's a game on Steam called Bomber 95. Oops, I should have attacked there. Which seems like it is a fast-paced multiplayer, online multiplayer Bomberman clone. It looks pretty good, actually.
You have made
$9.99 seems like it's a really expensive clone. It's up to 9 players. Ability to play hot seat with friends or with online players online. 9 unique levels, so not a lot of levels there. So I've seen a lot worse Bomberman clones, but I don't actually see anything here that would make me personally want to play one of these games. Let's see.
Try one.
I'll take him out.
But yeah, so I'm not gonna wishlist Bomber 95, but it doesn't look bad. If you are into Bomberman, that'd be it. You know, we haven't seen any visual novels, and I am almost done with the stream. Like, the first visual novel, and I don't even know if this actually is a visual novel, the first thing to even look like a visual novel is this game called Anycon-Animal Complex Sheep's Path. It says a romance comedy fantasy visual novel. So it seems like each character has a human version and an animal version. Let's see, if we do this, will we get excess mana? No, we won't.
For the wild.
It seems like it's always gonna be human on human romance and dating, which I think probably is not what the first one is. Oh look, there is a point where it's human on sheep. One of the screenshots, at least in the conversations. So it seems like these people can transform from a human form to an animal form. Let's see. I bet this is an English only game. Yes, it's not from Japan. Animation style doesn't look bad at all though. It is quite the niche game though. It's 10% off for $7.19. Says 3 endings, rated everyone. Which, okay, that's a little weird. Draw another card. Let's see. It says note this version is Sheep's Path only. So apparently they're trying to sell the game multiple times in a sleazy way. Yeah, this developer has a lot of visual novels, but I've never heard of any of them, and doesn't seem like they're probably that good. So I'd say probably on every way in which Anacon is trying to sell itself, it's probably not doing it well. I don't know if they know their target audience or just willfully not targeting their target audience. Let's see.
For the wild. Time waits for no one.
Turn. Next game we have on Steam is called Dead Forest. It came out August 4th, 2018. It's a first-person mystical thriller, it says. What it really is a wander around the forest asset flip game. It doesn't look terrible because asset flip games don't look terrible these days, but it's certainly not good. It's 10% off for 89 cents, and it has a not recommended review that says really not much of the game. All of the books are incredibly easy to find. I found them all and finished the game in 12 minutes. Good thing I only paid $1. Gematsu has an article, Chrono Trigger for PC, 5th update, now available. Let's
engaging PC 130, mental dislocator.
And let's kill something. Damage to the minion. And do that. And in return, the final major update. So, with the 5th patch key binding function implemented, an extra section has been added for movies, illustrations, sound, and endings. Adjustments to various features. Let's see. And bug fixes. So, at this point, if this really is the final major update for Chrono Trigger, now would be the time to go back and see if Chrono Trigger has any better reviews in the next 30 days or something. But honestly, I'll probably wait till the next summer sale. not even the next big sale, because there's a possibility that there is going to be a bigger big sale in Halloween. Like I don't know if I'm really going to be buying anything during that time though. Speaking of something I'm not gonna buy, we have a game on Steam called Kings that is a complete and total ripoff of the game Reigns. It's arguably, though, maybe better implemented for widescreen area, because you are you have more of a menu just telling you what your stats levels on certain things are. I imagine if it's the exact same cards and the exact same story as Reigns, then it could be taken down for copyright infringement. Otherwise, this is just very aesthetically similar, and clearly this is designed to hurt the Reigns brand. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is taken down, DMCA'd, or in some other way struck down. You usually don't see on Steam blatant copies of other games, or they're clones of particularly old games. Like, so Bomber 95 is a blatant clone of Bomberman, which is a simplistic concept, but you don't see this game is directly a Metroid game with Metroids and Samus Aran and all of that. That doesn't usually happen. Not to the point where it leads confusions. Kings is 40% off for 59 cents. I imagine it's incredibly short and only designed to trick you into buying it, and you'll be very disappointed when you actually start playing the game.
The light protects me.
Let's see. Next, we have a game called Universally Loved. It says talk your way out of the apocalypse. It says sexual content, adventure, indie simulation. And then I just see a bunch of shapes. And it seems like maybe it's a bullet hell shooter game, or just a random assortment of things. It certainly doesn't seem like you're talking always. Yeah, this is a really weird looking game, but also seems to be rather basic.
Choose soon.
And for that reason, I don't think I would want to. Like, I don't think I'd want to play this game. It doesn't have anything interesting visually to it. It's too all over the place. It's 10%. 10% off for $1.79. Yeah, I don't see anything there. Okay, so I talked about this article a while ago, and
So many options.
I didn't really get around to mentioning it because I forgot the name of it. So, for the game SNK Heroines, which is a fighting game they're coming out with SNK female characters, there is a Fatal Frame character named Terry, who is a male character. He's like the main guy. I'm sure people who play the Fatal Frame series are totally familiar with him. But they wanted him in the SNK Heroes game. I guess they figured that would sell a little bit. So they transformed him into a female version and just gender bent him. And I think he's probably the last heroine for SNK Heroines Tag Team Frenzy to be announced. And that certainly is a way to go with it. And of course, SNK Heroines Tag Team Frenzy was always supposed to be just a funny, over-the-top fighting game. Something that would let them do some crazier things that you probably couldn't do in regular SNK games. Give them crazy costumes that people will be more than happy to use in the photo mode, which they're showing off on the trailer.
Here we go.
So yeah, I don't know what to really say there. Just gender bending, not a problem for the Japanese, apparently. And actually, it never was a problem. It's been done a lot, and they just localized it out for the Western world. Gamma Sutra has a list article. Get a job. Defiant Studios is hiring a lead engine programmer. This is a New York City, New York job listing for Defiant Studios. I'd like to see who Defiant Studios is. Let's see. If we do this and then play this again and do this and then play this,
I fight.
And that.
Here we go.
That. And then return. Let's see. Defiant Studios. Let's go to the website and see what they've made. And some of these websites are just terrible. Yeah, I see no listing here. They say they're a team working on the next generation on console, PC, AR, and VR global games. And that's it. Like, apparently they've never worked on any game. They've got nothing behind their name. Let's see.
Your magic shall not save.
Here we go.
Do we want to do a little control? I guess. Do that. And yeah, I looked at board games that were on sale on Steam and added some more. I still think probably Tabletop Simulator is all you really need. Maybe I'd get Carscarone and cover that. I'm on the Humble Bundle store now, and let's see if there's actually a game bundle. There's ebooks for game design and puzzlecraft. There's the esports bundle. I have no interest on even clicking on that. Seems like they really are just all about the Humble Monthly thing. That's all they care about right now. It's been months and months and months. Let's switch over to Twitch and see if there's anything there. I'm just gonna hit this, play this.
I don't need any of you.
Here we
this.
go.
Yep, nothing on Twitch Prime. Okay, good. And so then I can go back to Twitter and just see if there's anything. Not a lot of news over the weekend, clearly. As I'm looking at it, we got through all the news in 3 hours, and there's not a lot of games that came out of that news. Only,
Protects me.
unless I'm forgetting, only like one visual novel at all was released. So maybe there's something happening in the background on Steam where they're doing something a little bit different. Oh, I could have played that better. I could have played that way
Already
better.
attacked.
Let's see.
Tazdingo! Yeah!
Let's see. So, your game has an article. Breath of the Wild has finally been given a spot in the official Zelda timeline. Like, honestly, that's basically who cares territory. I should play it out of order again. I should have done this and then this. Well, I should have killed the one, played this, then done that.
Here we go.
Let's see. New promo for Sonic Mania Plus. Varnier of the Dragon Star has a 3-minute trailer. This must be a new game. Come on, do it right. This. There we go.
Here we go.
Frostpunk's free people and automations updates let you name your suffering citizens in Frostpunk. Let's see. Phil Spencer is retweeting Compulsion's games for We Happy Few's release instead of, you know, the guy in charge of Gearbox or Gearbox official.
Here we
Phil
go.
Spencer, I don't believe, works for Gearbox, or maybe he works for Compulsion Games. That might make sense. Gigabyte launches a gaming mouse with adjustable weights and 1600 DPI sensor. For anybody interested in that. Red Letter Media has gotten flagged for putting out a video advertising their commentary track for deceptive practices, and they went to Twitter, and YouTube on Twitter said, we'll look into it, and then they came back and said, we sent you a private DM, which probably means that they looked into it and said, yep, it was deceptive practices, or here's the issue. They really don't want these small videos on YouTube anymore that are pushing people away from a Google service. So if Red Letter Media is selling or giving away their commentary through Patreon or something, that may just be too much. See, PC Gamer has an article. Dead Cells is often frustrating but fantastic action platformer. Let's see. We've got Light Rider as a new game. It doesn't look that good. There's a colorful mod from PC Gamer. Spice up your No Man's Sky Next Planets with this colorful mod. Interesting.
Here we
Keep on playing. This will probably be the last game we play. I don't see any reason to put this any further. There's a trailer for a game called Bee Simulator that PC Gamer is talking about. And see, I started a little late, so there really shouldn't be too many new things to talk about. There's a game called Gym Rush. But yeah, most of this, if not all of this, is going to boil down to just a few little stragglers and add-ons. As far as the Twitter news stories. Yep. And then on Wednesday, I'm gonna take all of tomorrow off and not record anything, but I might record something later tonight. And because of covering the cards and my teeth actually hurting from streaming in the middle of the night, covering all the new cards for Boomsday, I took the entire day off. Sort of. I scheduled videos, and I'm now caught up on videos, so I'm just trying to upload more videos. Let's see. Let's see. Play this, I guess.
Here we go.
That in the jam. Yeah, since I'm now doing the Halloween month, I want to put all my Hearthstone videos in one big group and then have Halloween month. And I definitely should, as usual, forever behind. I definitely should try to get all of the Halloween month done early, and I just keep on churning along as far as all of that goes. Yeah, I don't believe there's actually anything more on Twitter. So now Your Gamer article with a different perspective on the Chrono Trigger PC port. Let's see. I got all the daily quests done except for one more victory, which I can do off screen. And frankly, if there is something on Twitter that I'm missing, I'm just gonna miss it. Like, yeah. I don't think there's anything I am missing, but if I am, I'm just gonna miss it. And so people would have to let me know. Apologies to Matthias Diablo, or Matthias. I didn't quite get it, how you pronounce that right. He wanted to play me 1 versus 1 about 3 hours ago, and he didn't stay around long enough, I guess, to friend me, or I didn't know how to friend me, or wait until I was on the Americas account, which I assume is where he was. That's gonna be it for this stream. Pretty good. We got everything done. Yeah, got a little bit of conversation. It is a Monday, so I guess more conversation would have been helpful and nice. That's it though. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. All of that helps me with YouTube. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below in the description box. And if you want to support me, I'm asking people to friend me on Steam and gift me a game or a gift card. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.